All right, guys. So today's lesson is going to continue talking about line of best fit and actually figuring out how to calculate the line of best fit. And you do so by finding the slope and y-intercept like we did during first semester, and then writing your equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. Okay. So I have already pre-selected the 2 points that I'm going to use here, but I'm also going to walk you through how to do that. So if you remember from the other day, we talked about line of best fit. It has to go in the direction of the points, and it also has to have about the same number of points above and below the line. So when I'm doing that, when you need to calculate the line, your best bet is to pick 2 points and try and make a line of best fit from those 2 points so that it works perfectly. So when I'm looking at this, if I choose these 2 points, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 points not on the line above, and 1, 2, 3, 4 below. So that will work perfectly. The others are going to end up falling on the line, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to do that. Here's my line. Now, if you have a ruler at home, I would suggest using it because, as you know, we like nice straight lines. If you don't, just do your best. Okay? So the first question here says, explain why you think your line is a good fit. And it has to follow the 2 rules that we talked about the other day. So the line goes in the direction of the points. And the points are evenly distributed. Okay? All right. Guys, if you need to pause at any time during this video, please feel free to do so. There's going to be a lot of information that goes on here, so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that it's totally okay to do that. Okay, so part B says find the slope of your line using 2 points close to or on your line. Now, the fact that we chose 2 specific points to put our line through makes this a heck of a lot easier, which is the reason why I told you to do it this way. So the 2 points that I chose are -4, -3, and 3, 4. Now, if you remember, in order to find slope, it was always y minus y over x minus x. So that's what I'm going to do next here. So it's -3 minus 4 over -4 minus 3. Now, -3 minus 4 is -7, and -4 minus 3 is also -7. So that simplifies to not -1, but +1. So my slope here is +1. And the last step that you need to do in order to find your line is to start with y equals mx plus b, because that's the slope-intercept form, and we're going to fill in what we know. I'm going to choose to use the point that's positive. I'm going to use 3, 4. So I'm going to plug 4 in for y. My slope is 1, x is 3, and we're trying to solve for b. Because in this case, guys, in most cases, actually, your y-intercept is not going to be a whole number, so you can't just look at the graph and guess. You have to calculate it. So here we go. 3 times 1 is 3, so I get 4 equals 3 plus b, and in order to solve this, I would subtract the 3. Then that means that b is equal to 1, so my equation is y equals 1x, or just x, plus 1. Now this time we ended up getting a y-intercept that was a positive whole number, but it's not always going to be that way, and you'll see that in the next 2 examples here. Okay? All right, so number 2, we're going to do the exact same thing. I've already pre-selected the points because I'm magic like that, and I already know what 2 points are going to work great, but you, in the future, will actually have to try and figure this out on your own, so it's important that we go through this. So those are the 2 points that I'm going to pick, and the reason I'm going to pick them is because they go in the direction of the points, and if you look, we're going to have about 1, 2, 3 above, and 1, 2, 3, 4 below, it looks like. So that should be a good line of fit here. So I am just going to line it up, and I'm going to draw my line. Okay, so again, we've got 1, 2, 3 here. 1, 2, that one's basically on the line. 3, 4, 5, which is okay. We're only off by a couple. Okay? All right, so you actually have to write this out, but to save time on this video, this explanation that we wrote for part A here needs to go here as well. Now, take the time to actually write it out. So pause this video and write out the same explanation that we just wrote. All right, now the 2 points that I chose here are -2, 2, and 3, -2. We're going to find the slope. So again, it's 2 minus negative 2 over negative 2 minus 3. No, 2 minus negative 2 is not 0, guys. Minus a negative is the same as plus a positive, so that gives you 4. And negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5, so my slope is negative 4/5. Okay? All right, I'm just going to choose this point to use down below. It's y equals mx plus b again, and we're going to fill in what we know. I chose this point, so my y value is negative 2. My slope is negative 4/5. My x value is 3, and I don't know b. Okay? So if I multiply that out, I'm going to get, let's see, negative 4/5 times 3. So I have negative 2 equals negative 12/5 plus b. And when you add 12/5 to both sides, I'm going to get b equals 2/5, which would make my equation y equals negative 4/5 x plus 2/5. So as you can see, your equation is not always going to have a whole number for the y-intercept for these problems. In fact, more often than not, they will not be whole numbers. Okay? All right, we have one more to cover, and then I'm going to help you out a little bit with the graphs that you have to do in the practice today. Okay? So, again, I have pre-selected the points that I'm going to use, but let's walk through it here. So if I line that up, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 above and 1, 2 below. So that is a pretty okay line. Let me just draw it here. All right, again, 1, 2, 3 above, 1, 2 below. So again, this explanation needs to go here. So you pause this video and you actually write that out. When we do your notebook checks, if you don't write these out, you get no points. Understood? Make sure you write them out. Okay? Now, the 2 points that I chose here are 2, 5 and 6, 12. So those are the 2 points that I'm going to find the slope from. All right, so we're going to do 12, or 5 minus 12 over 2 minus 6. 5 minus 12 is negative 7, and 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Now, 7 over 4 does not simplify, but it's negative over negative, which makes it a positive. So that's going to be 7/4 for my slope. Okay? All right, I am going to choose, 2, 5 to use below. So when I go down here again, I'm going to start with y equals mx plus b, and we're going to fill in what we know. Y is 5, m is 7/4, x is 2, and then plus b. Okay? All right, 7/4 times 2, I get 5 equals 7 over 2, because it would end up being 14 over 4, which simplifies to 7 over 2, plus b. Then I subtract 7 over 2, and I get b equals 3 over 2. So my equation for the line I drew is y equals 7/4 x plus 3 over 2. Okay, here once again, not a whole number. Okay? All right, guys, so that is how you find the line of best fit. It's not really a new thing. You guys know how to do this. We've done it before. The only thing that is new is trying to figure out where to put the line. So just keep in mind that your line has to go in the direction of the points and has to have about the same number of points above and below the line. If you're off by 1 or 2, maybe 3, that's okay, but you want to keep them as close to the same as you possibly can. Okay, so your practice pages for today are going to be pages 81 to 84. But before I set you free to do that, I'm going to help you out with how to label each graph that you're going to need to use for your practice. So take a look at page 81. Again, you need to label the title, the axes, and the numbers on the axes as well, okay? So this one says, your class conducts an experiment. You ask shoppers at different stores how much change they have, and you record the total number of shoppers and the total dollar amount of change among them, all right? So remember, X is always on the left, so my X value is going to be shoppers. Change, or money, so change is going to be my Y. And I don't even know what to call this, guys, so let's just call this shopper's change. Sounds good to me. All right, So the hardest part about doing these, and I know you guys struggle a little bit with it, is labeling the axes, the numbers. So that's what I'm going to do for you. And then the rest is going to be your responsibility here. So if you look at the number of shoppers, we have to go up to 18. There are not 18 lines here, so we cannot count by one. There are actually only 10 lines for each. So I'm going to count by twos. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for the change as well because I need to get to 15. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. Okay? Your job is to plot these points and answer the questions below. Okay? You're going to have to draw a line of best fit and calculate it. That's basically what today's topic is. Okay? All right, so if you turn the page to page 81, I'll help you out with labeling that graph as well. So this one here, it says Jeremiah prints his digital pictures. After they start printing, he starts recording the time elapsed and the total number of pictures printed. So again, time in seconds is our X here. Number of pictures is the Y. And let's just call this picture printing. Okay. All right, so if we look at the numbers that we have here, we have to get all the way to 22. So I'm going to do something called a break. So it's going to break both sides of the graph here, the X and the Y axis. What that means is I'm not going to start at 0. I'm actually going to start at 6 for the time because the smallest time is 7. So 6 would be an okay place to start. And I need to get all the way to 22. I'm just going to count by twos. So 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. Now for the y-axis, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. So 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. Okay? And once again, you need to plot all these points onto the graph and then answer the questions that follow. Okay? All right, take a look at page 83. I'll help you with that graph. This one's talking about lighting a candle. So it's talking about how tall the candle still is after a certain amount of time. So hours is going to be my X. And candle height. Candle height is going to be the Y. So we can just call this, I don't know, time versus height. That sounds good. Versus candle height. All right, again, taking a look at the numbers. This is just 1 to 10. This one has to go all the way to 20. So for the hours, I'm just going to go by ones. So this is going to be a 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And for the candle height, I'm going to count by twos. That'll work fine because I need to get to 20. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, so that is the graph for page 83. We got one more left to do before I set you free to do the rest. Once again, on 83, you need to plot all these points and answer the questions that follow. Okay, turn to page 84. I'm going to help you again with that graph as well. This one says your little sister's classroom has a pet baby turtle. They let it swim in a tank and record its distance at certain times. So I'm going to call this time versus distance. X here is the time. Distance is the Y. And let's see how I want to count this. I got to get all the way to 20 over here, and the highest I see here is 7.9. So I'm going to do what I did on the last graph, but flip-flop the axes. So X is going to count by twos. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. And we're going to count the distance by ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? All right. And that is it for the graphs. So make sure that you are plotting these points and answering the questions that follow. This can be a little bit tricky, but I think you guys can do it. You were really good at writing equations of lines before. So, your practice for today is pages 81 to 84, so make sure you get those done. And then again, if you have any questions, let either myself or Mrs. Ripley know, and we'll gladly help you out, okay? Have a great day, guys.